All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you had a wonderful weekend. We got a full trading week ahead of us, and that means no more short week, no more holidays, just a bunch of economic data, Fed speakers including Powell, and even a couple of earnings. So before we get into any of that, before I tell you to like the video, make sure you're on the stream, we got to talk about Black Friday. A lot of people were looking at the consumer and data leading into this, and they were saying maybe the consumer and Black Friday will be a bellwether for how good the consumer really is. Well, according to the data now, there was not much to fear about. According to MasterCard, they said sales rose 2.5% year over year in nominal terms. And then according to Adobe, Black Friday e-commerce sale went up by 7.5% to $9.8 billion, setting a record. So for the most part, we shouldn't have any negativity for the consumer coming into this week. That could have been a potential issue with everything we've been going through, but for now, it seems the consumer is good. We are ending November with a wicked rally, and now all of this data this week, we got to see if it's going to add any more evidence to what the bonds have been doing. So we got a lot to talk about. There's a lot on the calendar. It's going to be easy. It's going to be broken into two sectors, pretty much Monday through Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday, and then we're going to sprinkle in some global stuff like the Bank of Japan. But for the most part, we haven't had a full week like this in a while. We're ending the month, and now with the Fed futures, before you know it, Powell is just right around the corner. So, Chad, drop that thumbs up. Make sure you're I already told you this. Okay, you already know what to do. Run it, baby.
Working to the couch, it's the 2020 election. Live in the hills, but still get a spread. Started with a live, but it's still reinvested. Feel how I feel, then you feel it's a blessing. I just want the lesson. I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but the sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
And I almost forgot. Today is Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. Here is the random account generator. We had to move it to Charles Schwab. I'm not calling them Charles Schwab anymore because they fixed the account stuff. The only thing they need to do is make it easier to buy and close the position that you have there. But Chad, I need a random play. Keep it below $100. Post the strike price, expiration date, all that good stuff in the comments. And tomorrow morning, we are going to pick a random play. So thank you for participating. But now let's get into the calendar and what we got to deal for this week. So here's the deal. Why is that so small? But like I told you, it's going to be broken down into two sections, Monday through Wednesday. What is going on Monday through Wednesday? Not much. You will be starting off the week with a 2-year bond auction. We had a little bit of that last week, and if you have been paying attention, you have noticed how the market has been hyper-focused on these bond auctions. So pretty much Monday to Wednesday, that's what you're going to be getting. I believe on Tuesday, you will be getting the 7-year bond auction, and then starting from Tuesday, you are going to see a bunch of Fed speakers. Then it's going to jump into real estate data, new home sales, home sale prices. There will also be the Richmond Fed and all that good stuff, but then another bond auction on Wednesday. But now, here's the best part about Wednesday. Where is it? In the morning, GDP. Like we've been talking about, the Black Friday numbers, the consumer, we are going to be getting the second estimate of GDP. Depending on how this comes out, remember, this was the high GDP that had people like Austin Goolsbee of the Fed saying, well, this isn't normal. This was a really big print. We just weren't as excited. So this is what we're watching for. And if you're not understanding why I'm showing you the calendar right off the bat, all of this data this week, we want to be on the lookout for the whole good news is bad news dynamic, and how does the data move the marker, especially with Powell around the corner and with how Fed futures last week moved. Don't forget, we are still pricing in rate cuts now for May and June. At one point last week, we were pricing in cuts for March of next year, which is right around the corner. So keep that in mind. But Monday through Wednesday, those are going to be the more important data sets. And then you're going to get into Thursday, and this should be the main event. You will get retail sales and other stuff, but where is it? Right here. Good old PCE, Fed's favorite inflation gauge. It also comes with personal income and personal spending, a little bit on wages, as well as the consumer. This should move the bonds the most out of everything. So this is what we're going to be watching, and then you're going to close the week out with Friday. There will be the Bank of Japan like that Thursday night, and then Jerome Powell has a speech at like 11 a.m. Eastern, and then the ISM right before an hour. This also has the ability to move the bonds. So hopefully you're picking up on all of it right now. This is a big data week. Is it the biggest? No, we have definitely seen more. The market is focused on inflation, and that has pretty much been the big driver besides jobs. So other than that, the thing we are looking for, though, is do we hold up this bond rally or not? Don't forget what we have kept going over here, that whole 4.5 and below. Last week, the last couple of weeks, it's been good, but then we did have a weird day on Friday, even though it was only a half day, but we are right at the cusp. So why I keep talking about Fed futures and bonds, it is very important. And at this stage, the data, if it moves bonds or Fed futures, those are the things that are going to get the market moving. So watch out for that. That is definitely the main thing for this whole entire week. The only other thing I would say here is that it's the end of November. You will be getting a little bit of that end of the month movement and people setting up towards the end of the year. And just don't forget where we are at with this whole entire rally. This has been one of the best Novembers ever. I might be a little bit dramatic about that since it definitely has had a return like this in November before, but I believe if we somehow go up 2% by the end of this week, that will be the best November in history. So to give you an idea here, and this is like the final point I would close on, pay attention to the levels. We're almost back at 4,600. That was the previous high of the year. And if you go back, that takes you all the way to March and even when the Fed started raising rates. So everything above here, you start moving 25 points at a time. And if we do get above the 460s, I mean, a lot of people will be calling for 4,700, maybe even now all-time highs by the end of the year. So we'll see if anything gets in the way, though. We've seen a lot of drama over the weekend, again, from the AI all the way down to overseas and geopolitical tensions, but you have witnessed this November. You already know the narrative, and now we need the data to confirm it, or it's going to do the opposite of that. So, Chad, I hope you're ready for all of it, but now let us get into the plays. So, right off the bat, I got a couple of different plays. I think I got like 4 or 5. And like I said here, we still have earnings this week. So you are going to be getting CRM, Dell, Dollar Tree, Foot Locker, Marvel, Snow, Ulta, and Workday. And don't forget, you just had NVIDIA earnings. There is still going to be a focus here, especially with a lot of the headlines. There was headlines not only about OpenAI and Sam Altman and all of that last week, but now people getting worried about AI going rogue. It was like an ESG fund managers. They were writing something this weekend. Quite interesting, but there is going to be plays there on the earnings front. But now, as far as my first play, I got to open up here with gold. We talked about this last week and why I want to watch it. You got that ceasefire. We've been about like a month and a half now into the Israeli conflict, and you have seen both an impact on gold from the conflict as well as the fact that the Fed is done moving rates. And like I was saying here, anything that starts to move Fed futures or bonds this week, I'd pay attention to gold because there is a correlation pretty much up until the invasion with or Israel-Hamas thing that happened. Gold and the bonds were flowing with each other, and then gold started taking off. But you'll notice bonds may have rallied, but gold is definitely outperforming, and I believe it is near an all-time high if it starts to make crazy moves. So with things, fear, lack of fear policy, definitely going to be watching gold, and especially if we do get started off slow. But hopefully we don't have to play too much of this, and then the market's active enough with the data to give us other plays. But that's going to be play number 1. Then play number 2, I flipped this last week for a loss. I made a small play. I think I top ticket and then sold it off here. But SPR, there's been a lot of good news out of Boeing and SPR about getting the 777 or the 747 MAX. I don't know if they changed the name, the 4 Pinto, whatever. But the whole thing is there's been good news with that Boeing plane. Even Boeing had a nice little recovery here. I think this could be good this week, especially if some of the industrials do good and we do see more rally in bonds. I do think these type of names will benefit. So watch out for them. That is play number 2. Then play number 3 and 4. These are the ones that I'm just in right now. Disney, they are holding the 95. The next level is pretty much like 97 right here. But if they get above that 101, 102 gap fill is in play. I will be looking at options contracts if we can frog them. Pretty much, it's been going straight up. What I'm expecting, if it moves up slow, a lot of those contracts will lose value and we might be able to get a cheap play. Do I want this play? yes and no, aka I'm not going to force it, but I will be keeping my eyes out for that. And then Baidu, we made that average down. They've been doing good since earnings. We break even in like $4. A lot of people were asking what I'm going to do. Am I going to sell it for a loss? No. So once it gets to 127, I'm going to decide to either go break even or take it. However, I am bullish on this and their earnings, and I do think kind of leading into next year, I am waiting on that little round of pump up China news, even if it's not true. It just Wall Street tends to do that, especially when it gets beaten down. And like we were saying, if the market is going to lift up, if we are really talking about all-time highs right around the corner, some of these lagging China plays, I am really, really going to be loving. So those are plays 3 and 4. Watch out for them. As far as everything else, we closed the bond play last week. That was nice. And honestly, I might go for a couple of /ZBs this week, but here's the deal. The final piece of news: the NASDAQ has now introduced 0-day options on the Treasury market. So we'll see what happens, but that's a new invention in the last 24 hours. So other than that, we'll see what's up with the bonds. Watch the bond auction like I've been saying here, or like you've seen. Those movements, those events have caused big moves, so that'll probably be something to focus on besides everything else. And then we see the data, see the market, see where it takes us. And that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure hydrate healthy, ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shining. Oh, and I need you to remember 2 words. No fear. You are not made to be fearful. Oh, no matter what. So whatever you've seen this year, last year, whatever it is, Chad, I want you to have your plan for next year. I want you to have your plan for closing it out. And whatever plan you make, my friend, don't do it out of fear. So, Chad, drink that water, stay hydrated, healthy, all that good stuff. I will see you in the morning. I hope you enjoyed your weekend and holidays. And horn.